Right, so Lee Anderson, the modern-day Tory equivalent of Enoch Powell, frankly, isn't he? Except where the Tory party back in his day booted him out for his hard-right anti-immigrant rhetoric. Today's Tories made Anderson chairman of their party instead. Instead of decrying so harmful, frightening and racist rhetoric, this bunch would give him a standing ovation instead. Anderson is one of those people who enjoys courting the controversy, of course, isn't he? He loves being renowned for being one of the worst. He gets off on it. He likes being in the limelight, if only for being known as the worst amongst a pretty rancid bunch. He quite likes the idea of infamy. No matter the depravity, he's the guy that'll say, hold my beer, I'll go lower. This is the guy who doesn't believe people need food banks, of course. This is the guy known as 30p Lee, for his nonsense recipes to feed people at a cost of 30 pence. The people need to live within their means, yet at the same time he can't seem to live on his overblown MP's wage of £86,000, that he needs to coin in a further £100,000 a year working for GB News, GBBs, making him a bigger grifter than Captain Tom's family. The Tory party, thanks to have a chairman like this, is now basically the National Front. It's not so much a rivers of blood speech as Powell gave. These days it's more rivers of shit with this lot, or perhaps barges of blood, if the safety fears announced regarding the prison barge Bibby Stockholm come to pass. And indeed, it's the barge that has prompted Anderson to once again sniff an opportunity to make headlines by coming out with the favourite retort of the small-minded, knuckle-dragging racist by saying if they don't like the barge, they can F off back to France. And it is a particularly small-minded, narrow worldview, because even if they did indeed all go back to France, the fools agreeing with Anderson over all of this would see no improvement to their own lives whatsoever, because they're too busy seething over skin colour and religion to realise it's actually the bigots like Anderson in power that are doing the real damage to their everyday lives and the lives of everybody else in this country. So what's been the Tory response? Surely somebody called it out. Q Alex Chalk, a complete non-entity of a minister that nobody has ever heard of, I know, but he's actually the Secretary of State for Justice these days. And he called Anderson's language a little bit salty, but well placed. A bit salty. The local chippy is a bit salty, but given Chalk went to the same posh boys' school as Rishi Sunak did, I can only imagine this is how these middle-class Tories think we working-class people normally behave. Oh, it's normal for them. This is what they're like. Oh, please excuse Lee. He's one of them. Well, no, it isn't. He definitely isn't. And it is not well placed. Let's flip this ignorant stupidity a second, though, because equally I, as a working-class bloke, could point to posh rich kid Rishi for saying his would be a government of integrity and point to Anderson and say, what is this then, sunshine? If this is integrity to you, no wonder people like Suella Braverman are still in post. No wonder you're obsessed with stopping the boats, stop the boats, stop the boats, stop the boats, without making changes to the asylum system that actually would stop them. And no wonder the official response from Downing Street, no less, is to literally support everything Anderson said. What's the media response to this then, Damo? Well, let's be charitable to start with and refer to GBBs as media for a second and not just a propaganda outlet for the Tory party, given how many Tory MPs they employ. Anderson presents a show there himself. He was on with Farage last night. He's constantly on with Dan Wootton, who shouldn't be on the airwaves either, if the damn channel would take the appropriate stance there, given the allegations currently being made against him. The Guardian is both siding the argument, which is itself rancid. Anderson's comments were made in an interview with the comic passing itself off as a newspaper called the Daily Express, so you begin to get the gist of what the media attitude to all of this has been. Anderson himself has even taken a swipe at Labour for not coming out and condemning him. And, you know, I thought twice about whether I'm just adding to the attention he's getting by making this vid centred around him mainly. But then I thought, no, too many people turn the other cheek. Too many are afraid to defend asylum seekers exercising their rights to claim asylum here. And I'm not going to worry about bigots screaming up in my comments, bleating about it, because frankly, I have nothing but disdain and disgust for such people, for the racist taking the side of a square-headed half-wit like Lee Anderson in what he said. Anderson has tweeted out towards Labour, why are they silent? The left-wing mainstream media has gone into meltdown over my comments. I can't imagine who he's talking about. There's no such thing as left-wing media mainstream papers in this country. But then this is Anderson, so I suppose anyone to the left of Rupert Murdoch is probably who that's aimed at. But interestingly, I am yet to see one Labour frontbench MP disagree with my comments. Is this another U-turn from Labour? Because the silence is deafening. Well, Many of them do agree with you, I expect, Lee, because it's not like Starmer would do any different. He's stayed completely silent about it, and he said he's going to keep these barges as well. But this begging for further attention by calling out Labour really is deranged. People should note that before becoming a hard-right Tory MP, Anderson literally worked for a Labour MP, Gloria Di Piero, who now, funnily enough, is also a presenter on GBB, so that should reinforce the understanding that many Labour MPs, then as now, are really absolutely no different and no less right-wing than the Tories are. One who is, and who prompted a response from Anderson, though, is Diane Abbott. Of course, not on the Labour front bench, and of course suspended by Starmer from the Labour Party because she's one of the few worthwhile MPs left. She tweeted out a new low for the Tories, to which Anderson answered, "I told illegal immigrants to go back to France, not asylum seekers." Stupid as you look then, aren't you, Lee? There's no such thing as an illegal immigrant, because the moment they touch our shores, they can claim asylum quite legally, thus becoming asylum seekers. Your original comment is quoted as, "If they don't like the barges, then they should F off back to France. These people come across the channel in small boats. If they don't like the conditions they are housed in here, then they should go back to France, or better, not come at all in the first place." So it's the people resisting going on the barge that you took aim at, and every single one of them is an asylum seeker, waiting on their claim to be processed. You don't even know what you're saying. You're just chasing headlines because you love the attention, you love to be hated. Unfortunately, in the position of privilege Anderson is in, he is influencing others still, and his dangerous speech will encourage greater grievance against people who have fled war and persecution, or goodness knows what else. Indeed, we're seeing greater levels of far-right anti-migrant activity, as is encouraged by the behaviour exhibited here. And it says much of the Tory party's desperation to score political points right now, facing annihilation at the next election as they are, that even led by the son of migrants, as that party is now, it still not only adopts such language as expressed by the worst among them like Anderson, but actually condones it as well. The same could also be said of the Labour front bench, whose silence is speaking volumes, that they agree and would do no different, fearing letting right-wing votes bleed across back to the Tories that they might be attracting themselves. Attracting like flies, frankly. They shouldn't be voting, they should be votes you're aspiring to win. Needless to say, I'll take the Green Party stance towards migration. Open up safe and legal routes to claim asylum, putting small boats and people traffickers out of business immediately. Allow asylum seekers to work whilst here, so they're earning their own money and contributing to the economy as their claims are processed. Repeal the illegal migration bill, though it's likely to be ruled illegal anyway by the Court of Human Rights in due course, and extend reunification rights so families are no longer kept apart. It's just basic humane stuff. There would also be a returns policy with the EU re-established, so we would no longer be responsible for housing all asylum seekers here, but a fair share of them. We need an end of Lee Anderson's in Parliament. He's on course to lose his seat, deservedly, like many other Tories, but he can't go fast enough. His influence and his fluency in bigotry, let's call it, is a national embarrassment. So teaching him to be fluent in silence instead, by ridding him from the public stage and denying him the attention he craves come the next election, would actually be, as Alex Chalk said, well placed. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where Anderson is, in his desperation to seek attention, a few months back declared his desire to see a return of the death penalty as well. Personally, the death of his parliamentary career will suit me just fine, and I'll hopefully see you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.